When you picture Mahatma Gandhi, you probably see this wise, serene figure, right? A symbol of peace and simplicity. But what if I told you that before all that, he had one single, all-consuming goal: to become a perfect English gentleman? Let's get into the untold story of how he went from that man to the Mahatma.
Yep, you heard that right. That's a direct quote. Before he was a global icon, young Mohandas Gandhi, a law student in London, was totally obsessed with becoming a polished English gentleman. It's a pretty shocking ambition, and honestly, it's the key to understanding the incredible journey that was ahead of him.
So here's the big question. How did the young man on the left, the one obsessed with expensive suits and ballroom dancing, become the world-changing leader on the right, a symbol of resistance and self-reliance? That's the incredible transformation we're going to unpack. Okay, so our story doesn't start in an ashram in India. Nope, it begins right in the heart of Victorian London, where a shy, kind of insecure young man was about to try on a whole new identity. It's almost hard to believe, but the future leader of millions was painfully shy. I mean, when he arrived in London at 19, he was so timid he literally hid in his cabin on the ship. He mostly ate sweets he brought from home because he just couldn't bring himself to ask which food was vegetarian. Even when he lived with another Indian family, he was too embarrassed to ask for more to eat, and he often went hungry. So what was the turning point? It all happened during this one humiliating dinner. Gandhi quietly asked if the soup was vegetarian, and his friend just snapped at him, calling him too clumsy for society and telling him to go eat somewhere else. Ouch. But that single, stinging comment, it sparked a 3-month obsession. And when I say obsession, I mean an obsession. Just look at this to-do list. A pricey hat, a ridiculously expensive suit from Bond Street. He even started taking lessons in ballroom dancing and playing the violin. And get this, he took elocution classes to get rid of his accent. It just goes to show how far he was willing to go to completely shed his own identity and put on a new one. So he was mastering all the rules of this world he wanted so badly to join. But in 1893, he took a 1-year legal job in South Africa, and that's where everything changed. That place would shatter all his illusions and forge who he was really meant to be, in the fire of some truly brutal racism.
In South Africa, he quickly learned that all those rules he'd memorized meant absolutely nothing. He was physically thrown off a train, even though he had a first-class ticket. He was refused rooms in hotels. He was beaten by a stagecoach conductor, assaulted by a policeman. Every incident was more than just an insult. It was like they were violently ripping away the very identity he had so carefully built. The English suit, the polished manners, none of it made a difference. This system was designed to do more than just humiliate. It was designed to erase him as a person.
And this one phrase, it just sums it all up. No matter his education, no matter that he was a lawyer, to them, he was just a coolie barrister. It's a slur that just dismissed everything he was. And this is the absolute turning point. The dream of being an English gentleman died right bare, because he finally understood that dignity isn't something you can earn by copying powerful people. It's something you have to demand from within. And this, right here, is the most important decision of his entire life. His 1-year contract was over. He could have just gotten on a boat, gone home, and never looked back. And who could blame him? But instead, seeing the unbelievable injustice the whole Indian community was facing, he chose to stay. And he would stay in South Africa for 21 years to fight. Faced with all of this, he didn't turn to violence or rage. Instead, now that he had lost that identity he tried to build, he reached deep into his own spiritual roots and created something totally new. A weapon that wasn't about force, but about truth. He called it satyagraha. Now, it's really important to understand this is not passive resistance. If you break down the Sanskrit, satya means truth or love, and agraha means firmness or force. So together, it's truth force. It's this active, powerful idea of fighting injustice by taking the suffering onto yourself instead of inflicting it on your enemy. And the first big test for satyagraha came in the form of the government's Black Act. This law was just designed for maximum humiliation. It forced every Indian person, we're talking men, women, and even children over the age of 8, to be fingerprinted like common criminals and carry a registration card with them everywhere they went. And this is where you really see how brilliant and disciplined their response was. This wasn't chaos, it was a strategy. First, they tried petitions. When they were ignored, thousands of people publicly burned their registration certificates.
Next, they started intentionally getting arrested, peacefully breaking the law to overwhelm the prisons. It all culminated in the Great March, where over 2,000 men, women, and children illegally marched across the border.
After 21 years of struggle, they won. And in 1915, the man who left India as a shy wannabe Englishman finally returned home. But he was a completely different person now.
I mean, just look at this photo. The Bond Street suit is gone. The uncertainty is gone. This is a man who was forged in struggle. He's confident, he's self-reliant, and he is rooted in his own culture. He didn't come back as a lawyer. He came back as a leader.
And the people of India saw this profound change in him right away. They gave him a new name, Mahatma, which means great soul. It was a title of deep reverence, a way of recognizing that his personal fight had turned into a spiritual quest for the dignity of everyone.
You know, maybe the greatest proof of his victory came from his main opponent, General Jan Smuts of South Africa. Even the man he fought against for all those years had to admit he had immense moral authority, and that he deeply respected him.
And this wasn't just some moral victory. Satyagraha got concrete results. That awful 3-pound tax was abolished. The law that had made Hindu, Muslim, and Parsi marriages illegal was reversed, and critical immigration rights were restored. He proved that nonviolence could actually bend the will of an empire. You know, the story of Gandhi's transformation, from a man who was just desperate to fit in, to the great soul who would change the world, it leaves us with a pretty powerful question. It suggests that maybe our deepest identity isn't found when we're trying to conform, but is instead forged in the fire of our greatest challenges.